Welcome back to part three of this particular episode. We're talking, can we ever eliminate racial bias in law enforcement? And we had a lot to say on episodes, well, actually parts 1 and 2. So stay tuned for part 3.
Are you ready for some controversy? Yeah. Are you ready for some fun? Yeah. Yeah. Are you ready for some laughs? Yeah. Let's get unfiltered with Cycle 4081.
Welcome back for part 3 of this particular episode. Can we ever eliminate racial bias in law enforcement? So in parts 1 and 2, we talked about racial bias in general. We talked about, is it an individual problem or institutional problem? We talked about, does implicit bias training actually work? We talked about, why do public perceptions of policing differ so dramatically across communities? And that was a hot topic. We talked about, should officers who repeatedly receive misconduct complaints be removed sooner? And we talked about body cameras. We talked about qualified immunity, what that was and who does it protect. And we talked about the demographics of the police department. Should it, match the community they serve? And we're going to kick this one off, the final part with, can aggressive policing reduce crime without disproportionately affecting minority communities? And that's going to be a pretty hot one there, because it's not all easy. It's not an easy subject. So this question sits at the center of an ongoing policy debate. Some research suggests targeted enforcement can reduce certain crimes, while critics argue aggressive tactics may impose unequal burdens and erode community trust. So the question is, can aggressive policing reduce crime without disproportionately affecting minority communities? I want to know, who's going to answer that first?
I will.
Shoot.
Aggressive policing is trash. It's dirty.
Okay.
It will erode trust.
Okay.
I just feel like when you aggressive policing, man, everything can go sideways.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, what if you have in community A a problem of graffiti? Let's say we start with that because we talked about that before. Graffiti damaging people's property, trash, littering, the whole nine, right? That's the problem.
Right.
But that's only in this particular community. So in that case, would you recommend aggressive policing to reduce that particular crime?
It depends on what you consider aggressive policing. Now, if community A has graffiti and it's only in this particular community, right? So in my mind, I'm not, okay, aggressive policing to me is, I'm not going in there and bust heads and stuff like that. Nah, my aggressive policing is, if I catch them doing it, I'm taking them. They gonna repaint it. That right then and there. They gonna
fix
take
that
stuff off. Yeah, they're gonna fix that. Not me going in there. If I see them with cans of spray paint, I'm gonna go and snatch them up and rough them up. I'm not doing that.
So aggressive policing is not that. Aggressive policing is basically putting your resources in a particular area for either deterrence or to make those arrests or stop, or we call it investigative stops, right? So give you an example of aggressive policing. Let's say in community A, me as the captain of this particular department, I'm going to send an extra 5 cars out there, or let's say the 5 cars is out there. I'm going to tell them to say, look, whenever you have a suspicious person, do a stop. Not so much you could be a motor vehicle stop, it could be a regular, pedestrian stop. If you have reasonable suspicion, there's nothing to say you cannot stop somebody to talk to them, right? They don't have to stop.
Right.
They don't have to talk to you. They can keep going. But when you do catch somebody doing certain things, you don't tap them on the wrist. Okay. If the crime says they can be arrested, you arrest them. If the crime says they get issued a fine or citation, you give them a citation, right? That's aggressive. That's aggressive policing. Not we're gonna get in this van,
Man.
get in this van,
Okay.
and all jump out.
That's good in theory, but then when you advocate for aggressive policing, which in theory is a good thing, but then what happens is now the levity of what is a suspicious person, what constitutes um stopping somebody. It's so much of a wide range, because I can go out there to community A and I'm there and I'm looking for people. And in my mind, now, once again, we're dealing with human people. My implied bias, I see Johnny, he's not suspicious to me. He's not suspicious to me. But if I see Raheem, oh, I'm gonna stop this nigga.
Okay.
I'm stuck, like you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know, man.
No, you brought up a valid point. So you can have that. You can. So here's the thing: when you have somebody who's suspicious, and that you're basing the suspicion off of your training, your knowledge, your experience, personal experiences, your professional know-how, right? So I'm gonna give you an example. I was sitting in front of this car. I was actually sitting in front of this restaurant. It was a carryout, and I'm just sitting in my car, and I see this guy standing outside the restaurant. It was a pizza joint, right? And he had on this long coat. It was summertime, but he had on this long coat. And he kept looking. Okay, there you go. That's exactly. And he's looking. He's just standing there, and he's looking. He's peeping inside. He's doing X, Y, and Z. All right, so that motherfucker is suspicious. I don't care if it was I was a white person or it was a white guy or whatever. You suspicious, right? Now another thing, if I see somebody, all right, we all grew up in kind of similar neighborhoods, right? Let's say, and we saw somebody doing something that we know that's what it is or that's how it goes. That's suspicious to us. It may not be suspicious to the white guy, right? And the white guy might not know. He might go on stuff that's what he sees on TV, or what he's learned in the classroom, right? And apply it, in a certain way. So that's different. So it can happen. It can happen, but that takes somebody. That takes, I think, the supervisory element in there.
So, white dude with a long coat on in the summer, hell yeah. My hand already on my Glock.
I honestly think that it can help.
Yes.
And that's if you know what aggression is, depending on what your aggression is.
Right.
But if that is done, it should be done. That's where it gets sticky, because it should be done everywhere, not just in certain neighborhoods.
Right. I agree. But here's the thing. A lot of this is complaint driven. So we're not going to do the same thing in neighborhood over here that's just happen to be all white folks. They didn't ask for it.
But the news reporters and the people, they don't understand that. They don't care. They don't understand it.
Exactly. So
all we know is you're not treating us the same way that you pulled over 10 black people and one black guy got pulled over. He flushed you out and you let him go.
Right. Exactly. But that's the difficulty of the job. So if I'm going to say it does work, and it does reduce crime, and is going to disproportionately affect minority communities, because if you're looking for something that's specific to a particular community that happens to be minority, it's just how it is. Here's where the problem comes in, right? Let's say we have a burglary issue in the whole jurisdiction, but yet we only go to the minority areas, even though the crime is evenly spread and we're aggressive in that particular area, but in the other area we do it in a softer way. That's where there's a problem. So I do think aggressive policing can reduce crime without disproportionately affecting minority communities. But it just so happens that if you want to be realistic, a lot of minority communities, not all, a lot of minority communities are in urban areas that's, congested, high population density. And when you have high population density, you're going to have more issues. That's just plain and simple. I think on a part of the police department, you just have to be able to articulate, your strategy in a way that people can say, oh, I understand.
But it can be done individually, correct?
Individually, what, communities, or individually as an officer?
As an officer, aggression.
Yeah, and that does happen. So a lot of times you might have an officer who handles a specific area. I'm gonna give you my example, right? For me, when I handled a specific area, I knew the issues in that area, so I'm gonna be hyper vigilant in addressing those issues, right? I might just do more checks. I might go knock on some doors, or I might just, go to where the kids are hanging out and sit there and talk to the kids or whatever. I'm gonna tell you what I did. Kids. I used to always carry a bag of candy in my car, right? So if I go pull up and I see the kids looking at me, and then they always look at you and they come by because they either they're afraid or they just wondering why you here. So I say, hey, I'll yell at them, hey, come on, let me talk to you for a minute, and I might give them some candy. And guess what? They start talking to you. They tell you everything. Right? And they start asking you questions. Hey, can police do this? Can police do that? That's when your antennas start going up. It's like, oh, okay, they had some bad interactions. But yeah, the individual officer can do that. And that's somebody who actually cares about their job or cares about fixing things or has some pride in their post, we call it, or their sector. That can happen. But that's not something that you can force it. You can say, hey, we've been having these issues in this particular area. I need you who handle this area to do a little bit more, and I want to see some results. I want to see some statistics, even if it means you stopping and talking to people. That can happen. So
okay,
yeah, it does happen. We had Keith. Keith, you want to chime in on anything? Just chime in if you're ready. So the public, a lot of times the issue when it comes to the public and the police, a lot of times the police do a horrible job of reaching out to the community and actually letting them know what's going on or why they do certain things. And the community, in turn, the people who need to know, don't make themselves available to learn, why we do certain things or
right.
So it's usually the people that's never having any problems that's out there, and the people who complain, who have the frustration, they never make themselves available to learn. So that just happens, But now, with that said, with officers, everybody's heard of that blue wall of silence?
Yes.
I've never heard of that.
Okay.
Never heard of it.
That phrase refers to the belief that officers may be reluctant to report misconduct by colleagues. Many officers reject this characterization, while others acknowledge that organizational culture can discourage reporting in some departments. Now, I'm going to keep it a buck. In any job where you work closely with somebody, any job, you don't want to be the one to tell or be known as the snitch of the office, right? However, when it comes to policing, it's a little different. And there's a culture. This is not something new. We're talking about going back to and I'm sure you guys saw the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, it's called Serpico, right? If you okay, I highly recommend. That's a great movie. So there is a blue wall of silence, but that wall is not that thick, and it doesn't, extend everywhere. You're going to be, and I've heard this, if an officer tells or reports another officer for misconduct, other officers will call that officer a rat, right? And then it makes it a hostile working environment. It happens. Any officer out there that tells you it doesn't happen is a liar, or they've been living in a bubble or working in a bubble, right? It happens.
Right.
And like I said, I can come up with a couple instances, but I don't want to, go into that. But yeah, it does happen. But it doesn't happen as much as people think, right? It doesn't happen as often as people think. And that's the thing where we have this miscommunication, or misunderstanding when it comes to the police and the community. So now, Paul, you've heard of the Blue Wall of Silence. How did you hear about
Yeah.
that?
I actually heard about a couple stories about some situations that happened as far as misconduct. Specifically, there was a group of officers who was actually running drugs in this particular city. And another officer, he said something. Well, he dined them out. He snitched.
Okay.
And he also said that other people knew about it.
Oh, so he brought
They
other people in
said,
it.
yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. I guess he was trying to get credibility, I guess, or whatever.
Right.
And so, nobody wanted to cooperate with him. Nobody cooperated with him. Eventually, what happened was this particular officer, he got gunned down, and they said it was a traffic
job.
stop or whatever.
Mm.
Yeah, it was an inside job. Yeah, but they tried to make it seem like it was. He went out on a call, and he got, he was a victim of a shooting, but in reality, it was the officers. They did it.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this, and since a lot of things has happened, obviously when things get in the news, all departments have come up with new policies, new strategies on how to report those things and hold people accountable. And they basically said, if you are privy to some illegal criminal activity and you were there and you knew about it, you're going to get in the same amount of trouble, right? And they try to make it easier for officers to report that type of stuff. But
that forces you not to say anything.
Well, no, it forces you to say something, because
if you're telling me, if you say that to me and everybody on this phone, all of us are officers,
mm-hmm.
you're our top captain,
mm-hmm.
and you say, hey, you tell all of us, if you know something, all of y'all getting in trouble. I'm not gonna run my mouth because I don't want to get in trouble. I'm gonna act like I don't know what happened.
No, so the way it goes is, let's say, all right, Paul's Alonzo, right, and we work patrol. And I work patrol.
And I'm dirty as hell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I witnessed I witnessed the situation. I'm there, right? I have an obligation to report that. And I'm talking about some egregious stuff. I ain't talking about because he yelled at somebody or I ain't talking about stuff like that. I'm talking about, when it's criminal stuff that can actually affect him, me, and the department. And I'm going to tell you this. I've told people before, okay, don't have me up on the 8th floor. And I think it was the 8th floor that we had internal affairs. But anyway, don't me. You're not going to act a certain way while I'm there, because I'm not going to be the one to be speaking behind the mic. Okay.
Right.
And if you're doing something that's going to jeopardize my freedom, my job, my integrity, whatever, that's on you. And then we'll settle it from there, but everybody's is not going to see it that way. Some things I could see an officer saying, you know what, okay, it wasn't that bad, so I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to report him, but I'm going to have a chat with this guy, right? So, and that has happened. Officers have settled things amongst themselves, right?
Mm.
I remember distinctly, because we had another guy that was doing certain things, and he wasn't doing anything really, hard or anything like that, or illegal, whatever. But they got together and pulled him aside and says, look, everybody's not an asshole. So chill out on how you talk to people, and that was, I think, early in my career. And I noticed, it was black officers that pulled this guy aside, so it does happen. They do have other ways of correcting certain things. But the problem happens when somebody gets used to, doing unethical or criminal things, guess what happens? It doesn't get less. It gets more, because they're not getting caught. And that's how it happens. Even criminals will keep doing the same thing until they get caught, right? Well, the same thing applies to the police department. So, that blue wall of silence isn't as strong anymore, especially now that everybody got cameras posted on walls, cameras on cell phones, all of these things. That's the worst thing an officer wants to have to deal with is, they pull you in and say, hey, I need you give us a statement about what happened, X, Y, and Z, and then you lie to cover the other officer. Then they bring out the tapes and the video and all that type of stuff. Now you got wife and kids, a house, car, and all this other type stuff, and that's down the drain because of this idiot.
But would it be fair? Would it be fair to say that it was strong? Like, would it be fair to say that prior to the new laws,
absolutely
cameras,
it was strong.
like that?
Absolutely it was strong. Okay. And I'm not going to say it's not strong in a lot of places, but there's some departments that are progressive enough to say, you know what, we're gonna get a hold of that because we don't want to be in the news or we don't want to lose money, right? We don't want to be embarrassed, and now everything gets on the news. Yeah, but I don't think that is not. I mean, it doesn't exist. I would, if I had to bet the farm, I'm going to say it does exist, So yeah, but a lot of it has to do with media coverage, right? And now, how much does media coverage you think shape public trust in law enforcement?
I think there's a big percentage of it, maybe half, because I just named you two things.
Right.
One earlier on the podcast about internal affairs, and there's something else now. And I was completely wrong about.
Mm-hmm.
So media coverage, it heavily influences what you think or what your perception of law enforcement.
I would agree.
Well, just look at the shows that are on TV. I mean, if you look at TV shows, it's hella police shows, crime shows, and they all are steered towards a specific type of way, where the cops, police officers are always the good guys, and except in some rare cases, but that shapes public perception.
Yeah.
Like we say, when you look at communities and they watch these shows and oh man, he's just doing his job. Like I see these comments. Sometimes I'll look at these comments where they post a video on certain things that go on with law enforcement, and you already know by the comments, the majority of the comments that says, "Hey, he should have just complied. If he didn't do anything wrong, then why did he? There must have been something that he did." Right. Now, those comments always come from a specific demographic.
And we showed you the poll. You already know the poll numbers.
Even with visual evidence,
right?
That contradicts their thought process. Oh, he or she, they must have did this. They didn't do right. They didn't comply.
Those comments normally come from people who hasn't been in that situation or who has never been in those situations.
Right. Or already have biases. Now,
exactly.
Yes.
Here's a commentary on this. Highly publicized incidents can influence national perceptions, as you just mentioned, right? Some people believe the media overemphasizes negative cases, and I'm one of them. That is the problem. A officer with 20 years experience and had every day went to work and did everything right, did far beyond what he had to do, gets in one incident. Let's say he smacked somebody, right? And you don't even catch the entire incident. The person could have spit on him or whatever. You don't know. But smack somebody, it gets on the news, and guess what happens? He's a corrupt cop. He's a dirty cop. He needs to be fired. All this type stuff. That's what happens. And it's not just that. The news have to get the clicks. The news have to get the views. So they're going to promote the negative stuff. That's just natural. And it's more.
And you get it both. Right. You get it both ways, though.
Yeah.
The one guy who gets in trouble. They talk about, I don't know, he steals something, whatever, gets on a police chase and he's running home. I don't know, for whatever reason, he gets in trouble. Then it's on the news. They're calling him a thug. They
right.
label this guy. They paint him a different color. And, he's been working with the community for the longest and doing all this. He was just scared at the time, but for whatever reason. So right. it kind of works both ways.
It does, but more likely against the police. And that's and we talked about this yesterday. I think it was like you could have a police officer in Oakland do something, smack an old lady, right?
Right.
This is the one field where it wasn't that particular officer that did it. It was that department or that or police in general. You police do this, this, and this. It's unfair, but that's life. That's how it is. Like I said, we're not the only profession that goes to that. The priests, we already know what that's about, you know.
So that might be true.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But it is. So this is the one thing that can, you know, the media. When we talk about social media too, YouTube, go out there and smack somebody or talk greasy to somebody or whatever, anything that seems distasteful, and in a matter of 24 hours, you got 1.5 million views, right?
Right.
Yeah. So the media does shape public trust because the public don't see everything that goes on except what's fed to them by the media. I think that was a pretty easy thing to kind of acknowledge, you know, especially don't let it be anything that's fatal, because anything that's fatal,
oh hell,
the police already are going to be wrong. Even if they're not, they're going to be wrong in the, you know, the court of public opinion, right? So my question is this: should every fatal police encounter automatically trigger an independent investigation? And when I mean independent investigation, let me explain. When I say independent investigation, that means an investigation outside of that particular police department, whether it be another police department or the Attorney General's office. Every fatal police encounter, should it automatically trigger an independent investigation?
Fatal, yes. I think fatal should.
Okay. And
I agree.
You agree?
I agree. I agree because, you know, fatal could be along the lines of the stuff that's been going on with what's his name, Trayvon Martin and stuff like that. That's why I say I agree with every.
Okay.
You know,
so
not just white cops, but you know,
every encounter.
Yeah.
Period. Okay. So the advocates argue independent reviews strengthen public confidence. I agree. Opponents question whether mandatory outside investigations would slow justice or unnecessarily duplicate existing processes. I agree. However, I think when it comes to that, you can always double it up, but I think it's better when an outside agency investigates it, because one, just think inside. How would you feel if you had to, you know, investigate somebody who was the best man at your wedding or the godfather of your children or took care of your kids while you was doing X, Y, and Z, right? It makes it hard.
Yeah.
So I think it's in the best interest of both the agency and the public for it to come on the outside. I don't care about the time, you know, especially when we talk about fatalities, you know, I think is best.
The life, yeah.
Maryland does that. Maryland has a law where it gets investigated by the Attorney General's office. And I think a lot of officers didn't like that because they thought that, you know, we know how to investigate these things and, you know, we're good at it. You know, you're just making it look like that we can't be trusted. So I see their point, but it's really not about that. It's about somebody somewhere can't be trusted. So
I'm gonna tell you what state doesn't do it. Mississippi don't do it.
All right.
because how you gonna have? I'm saying, how you gonna have 5 to 6 black men show up as being hanged, and then the police say, "Oh, there's nothing to discuss. It was a suicide." Hey, I don't know about you. I don't know about anybody else, but ain't no black person jumping up on no tree and putting no noose on their neck and getting tied up and saying, first of all, you can't. How you gonna do that?
Trust me. Let me tell you, there's the funniest things when people think that there's no way possible it could be done can be done, and it has been done. But I get your point. Now, you speaking about Mississippi, I don't even trust the state attorney general's office to do it. So sometimes you got to bring in, people, other, like for me, if I was in
Yeah,
Mississippi and it was one of my family members or somebody I cared about, I'm not trusting Mississippi. That's just me because I got biases, right? I don't
right,
trust Mississippi. I don't trust the state attorney general's office in Mississippi, right?
right, right.
I would rather have the FBI come in and investigate it. And at this point in time now, I halfway trust them, right? But
Shit, I don't trust none of them.
at least there's a better chance of something being accurate. But yeah, this is the times that we live in. So to me sometimes it feels like a lose-lose situation. But
Yeah, yeah.
um, anybody heard of community policing? No.
The community, you
Yes,
said community
yes,
Community.
yes, I
placing?
have.
Okay, community policing. All right. So community policing basically is a policy that seeks to build relationships with the public and the police before crises. I said crises actually happen. Right. Its effectiveness often depends on sustained investment, which means you can't just do it for a day or two or all that type of stuff. It has to be sustained, and you have to have residents participate in that. And then you also have to, that has to be accompanied by broader organizational changes, right? So it has to be a top to bottom, strategy. So is community policing a solution or simply good public relations? I want Marky to answer that because you've heard of community policing.
I think with more attendees, it could be with more attendees and more cooperation because you have some communities where they want to do it, but they're afraid to do it because the police are only around there. They don't feel protected.
Okay.
And it's kind of where I came in with the other day. Protect and serve. You're supposed to protect and serve, not enforce laws. At that time, they feel like they're only coming around when the laws need to be enforced. If they're going to police themselves, bottom line, we're going to police ourselves and assist the police and do these things. We still need the police's backing. Now, you got the, and it falls into why people don't tell when things are happening, when things are going on in the neighborhood. Okay, the police officers have to leave that neighborhood. They're gonna leave the neighborhood, and I'm left here with these same people that I told on. They know my address, they know who I am, where I live at, and my everyday rule. And you're not coming around for another 2 to 3 days. By the time you come back, I know you've seen it in Baltimore. My house was burned down. They didn't kill my grandmother, grandchildren, because I was talking to the police.
Okay.
So it has to be consistency. It has to be, I would say, revamped.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you need more of the community, not just 2 or 3 people, not one young activist and a couple of old ladies.
Right. So good community policing actually involves the entire community. Not every, when I must say entire community, a large portion of the community, and it's sustained. Give you an example. There's mechanisms that could be put in when you have good community policing that has a way of funneling information back and forth without having to tell, or just having that officer know who's in their community, know Mr. and Mrs. Smith, know little Johnny over there. I know little Johnny belongs over here at this particular address, and I know his mother, or I know, the kids get out at a certain time, and I know there's some bullying issues, or this person's involved, and I'm going to sit over there and, talk to them. I'm going to go into the schools and talk to the kids when they feel open. And I tell you, little kids tell everything, right? So it's just like you said. But when you have good community policing, those are the things, those are the strategies that are in place, and I'm not talking other than just a community walk that people seem to do. And that's effective too, because when you do a community walk, you get to talk to officers and get to know the officers as well. And sometimes the supervisors, and, they see you as people. So I do think community policing is one of the solutions, because it's never just one solution. I think it's one of the solutions.
And
And
it doesn't have to end with policing either. It happened in Baltimore a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, earlier in the month. They had the fathers came out. They talked to someone on the radio. The fathers came out, and it was Daddy Stroller Day. That's what it was. And they were outside pushing their kids. They met downtown by the harbor. They were outside pushing their kids in the stroller. It was just fathers and their children, and fathers and
Right,
the child in
right.
the stroller. And they were pushing them around, and the fathers were talking about how they can make the community better and stuff like that. It started with, I think this was the second one. This was the first one, and they were talking about it in D.C., saying, "Hey, we need to talk to the people in Baltimore and organize, see how they did that, and we can do something too. Either make it a competition, or like say, hey, we got 50,000 fathers with 50,000 strollers today, and they're pushing their kids and doing this and doing that, or we can all get together and have fathers out with their kids, showing that fathers are important in the neighborhood and do these things too. So that's a part of policing as well, because they have their younger kids, and that's what it has stemmed from. They had the kids with them, and they wanted them to get out of the neighborhood and show that you do have good fathers out here, and we can control our neighborhood without, we can help implement certain things in our neighborhood.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, and like I said, there's several ways and strategies that you have to implement, and I think when cities or police departments fail or leadership fails, is they always go after one solution, and I think to really address any solution, any problem, is to have multiple solutions. But okay, now we're coming up on our lightning round, right? But I'm going to ask you something. When we talked about qualified immunity, right, earlier, do you think that, all right, let me tell you, let me give you the background on this one. So this is about personal liability insurance, similar to what, doctors have. Supporters argue insurance could create financial incentives for risk reduction and accountability. Critics worry it could discourage qualified applicants or increase costs without addressing root causes. Now, should police officers be required to carry personal liability insurance similar to that of physicians?
I think that's a good idea,
Why?
because I think that, as with doctors, when they incur malpractice or negligence or misconduct, and it's an individual situation, I don't think that the police department as a whole should be penalized. I think the officer who committed those type of injustices or errors in judgment or intentional, they should carry that insurance, because they need to be whoever suffers need to be compensated.
Okay.
I think it's a deterrent. I think it's a deterrent.
As a deterrent. Okay. Well, a deterrent from the officer doing whatever, knowing they have insurance?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
because
I think
if I'm insured, I'm insured. I'm like, okay,
well, shit, hell, yeah, yeah.
I disagree with that one, Paul. I disagree with you on that one, because it's like we're asking them to volunteer for this job first. Then we're telling them you're part of a liability, so you need to get insurance on you.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I look at it. I don't think, I think you just somehow we got to weed out the bad ones. I don't think that's yeah.
Man, listen, I get that. I understand. I really do understand that. That's the reason why I said insurance, because the concept of weeding out the bad ones, that's like a whole garden that you going. That's going to take a long damn time, because foundationally, this system is built on misconduct and it's built like that. So I get what you're saying, Marky. I really do. Weeding out the bad ones, but man, I tell you.
So let me throw this in there. And I said I'm agree with, in part, I do agree with Paul in about officers having insurance that would be good protection for the department. All right, so it takes away some of the liability from the department and taxpayers. That's one. However, here's a negative on that. Anybody pay car insurance?
Yes.
Okay. Now, would you say your car insurance is affordable or an easy bill?
If I want to drive, yeah, but it's
So
not an easy task. No.
now, imagine having a field where it's already hard getting qualified applicants or even unqualified applicants. It's hard getting those in there.
Yeah.
Now, if you're trying to bring a pool of applicants in there and you're going to tell them, well, hey, we're going to give you $65,000, but with that $65,000, you got to take we're going to charge you $600 a month out of your paycheck for insurance just in case you fuck up, right?
Yeah.
Not only that, we're going to want you to pay for this and go out there and put your life on the line. When they start shooting, we need you to get out there and handle that. We need you to get in these high speed chases, and get there. We need you to, when there's a gas leak, we need you to go to the area, or if there's a car accident, we need you to get there and perform CPR on the person or some type of medical care, and just don't fuck up, because then we're going to have to get your insurance again, and that's going to make your rates go higher, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that going in, who's going to volunteer to be a police officer? Not
Right.
me, because I can go get another job. Shit. Doctors get paid $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. They got paid that insurance. Police officers don't get that much
But see, then again, now there's a problem with there's a problem. Yeah, there's a problem with the system now, because foundationally, I believe the police officers are so underpaid for what they do. Like,
Okay.
I believe this, just like you said, if you're asking a person to volunteer, as Marcus said, to voluntarily sign up to protect and defend a person that's not you, that's not your family, to go to a high-speed chase, to get involved in a domestic dispute that has nothing to do with you, to potentially risk getting killed over some other BS that somebody else started, right? And then on top of that, if you say, okay, with all that being said, you need to carry insurance, right? Yeah. Hell no, I'm not signing. Hell no, I'm not signing up. But let's go back to foundationally what I said. The law enforcement police department really is damn near between police and I'm going to call it military police and teachers are so damn underpaid for what they do.
I
I
agree.
know I'm not putting my life on the line for none of y'all. Like, and they only paying me $45,000. Damn that.
So let me tell you, when I got out to military, I think at that time as an E5, I think I was making like 36,000, right? Now let's translate that military pay. You already got things that's taken care of. You're getting, extra money for this, extra money for that. Things are so much cheaper. Movie tickets, food, whatever. So that 36,000 was probably like 65,000, with all the benefits that you get being in the military.
Yeah.
Getting out to take a job where you got somebody who's going to point a gun at you, or you got to fight, you got to chase people in the snow, hurricanes, sleet, thunderstorms, middle of the night, and getting $25,500 a year.
Damn that.
Exactly. So the highly qualified applicants, a lot of them will say, well, you know what? I'm not doing that. I got a college education. I got this. I got that. I got military experience. I got this. Why would I do that and get paid that little bit of money to increase my chances of not living or getting sued? Right?
I got 25/5 out the military sitting on my ass answering questions about investments. I was sitting on my ass for 8 hours and getting 25/5. You think I'm going to take 25/5 to get to have a gun that I really?
And let me tell you,
it don't take a second for me to pull that gun out and start shooting somebody.
Let me tell you, that 25/5 was a raise that they got, a recent raise. So
y'all get minimum wage. Y'all get minimum wage.
All right, so let's go into this lightning round. We can close up with this, right?
All right.
I, I want brief answers because it's a lightning round. Obviously, lightning means quick strike, quick, right? And you all can answer it, but be brief. Is fairness more important than crime reduction if the two appear to conflict? Go back to that aggressive policing.
No, I would say no.
Okay, fairness is not more important than okay.
No.
Paul, what do you say?
Yes.
Fairness is more important. You say okay.
Yeah.
Dimitri, you say
I say yeah.
fairness. Okay, I'm gonna say no, and the reason why is everything is not going to be applied fairly because it's just not due for that. Okay. Now, number two, does fear influence police decision making more than bias? Ooh,
As of lately, I would say yes.
yes. Okay, okay. I see Dimitri's thinking. Click,
So
tick tock, tick tock.
so you
And
you
I say
saying
that because my bad, me, my bad. But
go ahead.
I say this because I witnessed this. I'm around it, and I see it on the internet a lot. But here in D.C., as in Baltimore, when you're policing, I don't want you to go out there and take your shield off and beat a shield. But when a shooting's going on, I watch police officers say, "We're gonna wait till this die down." There's nothing I can do while they're shooting. It's not Paul, Brian. You must know what I'm talking about.
No,
There's
I
nothing
don't.
I can do. There's nothing I can do while they're shooting right now. Now we can go and pick up the evidence or whatever the case may be, but I'm not running into a gunfight. And I don't know where it's coming from.
All right, so let me tell you
Let me
this:
finish
if that's the case,
finish my
they need to
donut.
be removed from the profession, right?
It's a lot of them. And
Because
look, Brian, you when you get a chance, look on the internet. Make this quick. Look on the internet. Look up Chicago's gunfight. Police officer afraid. You will hear them saying things. When you get a chance, look it up.
all right, I'm gonna do that. All right, now are police asked to solve too many social problems?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
for those people who out there, and this is for police officers, right? Who have an issue with this whole defund the police, right? They don't realize a lot of times people's emotions cloud judgment or critical thinking. The whole defund the police thing was take some of that resources that you give to the police and funnel that into those social departments so they didn't have to address those
Yeah.
issues. Take less responsibility from the police and have somebody else do it. But they all they saw was defund the police. They taking money out my pocket, just for those who didn't know. All right.
Right.
So this is a big one. Should mental health professionals respond to more emergency calls?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's pretty easy, and I think a lot of departments are doing that just now. They're actually
Are they
having
assisting?
yes.
Are
So
they okay?
so
Gotcha.
what they'll do is they'll partner a mental health professional with the police officer, and they will go out to certain calls and let the mental health professional do what they do, and actually the police is more or less protection. So that's a good idea, and I think a lot more are starting to get on to that now. Ooh, would eliminating police unions improve accountability?
What's that?
Would eliminating police unions improve accountability?
No, I don't think so.
No.
No, I don't
No.
think
Okay,
so
No.
either.
I'm gonna
You're
agree with
No.
y'all.
hampering the officers again.
Exactly. I don't think
Yeah.
removing any union improves
No,
accountability.
yeah.
If
I think
anything,
every profession needs a union.
I agree. I agree. All right. So,
You know, hey Brian, really
mhm.
quickly, I gotta say this, and I'm gonna beat this in the head every time we talk about police officers. I don't think there should be just one officer answering calls anymore. Um, or arriving to one call. I think it's just too much on these guys. It's too much. I've seen it when I was younger, and I watched them make fools out of police. I watched. Some say he was a friend of mine, and we went to the same school. I watched them in college. Someone said that they robbed a bank, but they called the police in one direction, said they're shooting over here. They went there. Police went over in that direction, which was 15 miles away, and they went the other 15 miles, robbed the bank, and continued on home and got away with it. Saying that to say, You don't need a whole force to go in one direction and look for some people. Double up on the police, old guy, young guy, or somebody who's about to retire. Give him an incentive to ride with this young guy, to be his eyes and ears, help coach him or whatever the case may be, until you can. He don't have to do the hard work, but an incentive to coach this guy until he can get on his feet, do the right thing, or you get more people in there. There got to be something else we can do, though.
So that does happen during field training. So every police department has a field training time frame where they match a supervisor or a veteran officer with the new officer coming out. So that does happen. And even in a lot of jurisdictions, though, even though an officer is assigned to a call, rarely does a single officer go to that call. They may be in the car by themselves, but there's always a backup, or should, and that's what they push when you're even in your academy. They'll say back your fellow officers up, back you up. Yeah. But there's going to be times where you're going to have to respond to calls by yourself because it happens quickly, or it just is an on view. So, but yeah, I agree with you on that one. So
I think every officer should ride with a criminal.
Okay. So,
on the way to the station, Paul.
Yes.
I think every new officer should ride with a criminal, man, at least for a week, man. I don't know where you're gonna find them, or if they acted, if they reformed. I just feel like the best training. I know you getting the academy training. I know you getting the book training. But man, you out in that field, man, you get one of them reformed criminals.
So
put him in that car.
So wait a minute, you're gonna have a criminal ride with a police officer, where already there's an issue of trust with the police officer who
on both sides,
who passed all the metrics, and you're gonna put a criminal with that officer to learn everything that they need to know, all the inside stuff. Who don't lock their doors, who don't yeah. Nah, that ain't gonna work. All right. So speaking of which, public trust. Can public trust be rebuilt after repeated high profile incidents?
Hard. It's hard. I would say probably not.
Okay. I'm gonna say yes, it can, and it has. But it is, like you said, it's very difficult, but it can, and it has. Is policing fundamentally reactive or preventative?
Reactive.
Okay. Fundamentally reactive. Okay.
Reactive.
Okay. I'm going to say it is fundamentally reactive. And the preventative thing just, I think, is relatively new when it comes to that, crime prevention. And I think just like the police, the fire department is reactive. There's elements of the fire department that is preventative. Can they go out there and do checks and make sure you got the fire alarms and stuff like that. So I think just in that it's reactive. I agree. All right, last question. And this is you guys can answer this however you want it. What reforms have shown the strongest evidence of success? What police reforms have shown the strongest evidence of success? I have one in mind already, but go ahead. I want to hear from any interview on that one.
I gotta let somebody else go with this one first.
Police reforms. What police reforms has shown the most success?
Most evidence
I don't know if it's a standard practice. I don't know, but to me, it would be like we talked about earlier, having that the officer that's most aligned with that community be a part of that representative hiring.
Okay, representative hiring. Okay. That's a good one. I agree. Yes, I fully agree with that one. I'm going to say the body-worn camera reforms.
Yeah.
Because it does. It works on both ways too. It actually helps reduce crime or actually solve crimes in a true and trustful way. and it also deters officers from doing certain things that they know, even though they have body worn cameras, they still do it. But a lot of them know it's on camera, and they're going to at least think twice about doing certain things. So yeah, that's those are two big ones though. I would have to agree.
I don't think it's reform, but what about ride-along?
Well, you know what? I do think that works. I used to do ride-alongs, give ride-alongs rather, and I think it's a good thing so people can. First of all, it's a good recruiting tool more than anything.
Right.
Let people know this is how the job is, and they, like it. My sister did a ride-along with me, some years ago, and ended up, becoming a police officer, right? Based on what she experienced with me, and it was an exciting night too. It was, but yeah, I think that's a good recruiting tool, and sometimes it lets people know, especially when you have somebody who's a activist or spokesperson for a group, to see exactly how things go, and then maybe they could change their tune. And the biggest thing was when in Arizona, we had this activist got a chance to do a ride along and go through some of the police trainings, and after that they changed their tune, right? I love seeing that,
Okay.
Yeah. So let me close this one out. Conversations about racial bias in law enforcement often become polarized because they touch on safety, justice, history, and identity. Productive discussion benefits from recognizing that crime reduction, officer safety, civil rights, and community trust are all legitimate public interests. The challenge is determining which policies best advance those goals while respecting constitutional protections and maintaining public confidence. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And let me give you a word of the day. The word of the day is going to be cameras. The word of the day is going to be cameras. So if you guys get the word of the day for each episode, then email us at unfiltered.psycho4081@gmail.com, and you have the opportunity to win prizes. First come, first serve. But thank you, and hopefully you guys will follow, share, and catch us at the next episode.
Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of Unfiltered with Psycho 4081. Big respect to our guests for keeping it real, and love to every listener rocking with us week after week. This conversation ain't over yet. Stay locked in for the next episode coming soon. Until next time, keep it unfiltered with Psycho 4081.